Looking at Indian aviation for the last 2 months, since the 25th of March, we've been on the ground. We've just started flying exactly 2 months later, 25th of May. Yes, you're right. There's a lot of measures that have been put in place by various carriers, which have been mandated by the government. Things like offering a protective kit to customers, which includes a mask, face shield, and sanitizers. There's also a temperature check when people enter the airport. There's also additional cleaning on the aircraft and so on. So firstly, in terms of the costs that this has put on the airlines, I believe I can speak for all the Indian carriers that the preference and priority for us is to get off the ground in a safe and healthy manner. So I think this is the need of the hour, and we've adapted to it. In terms of what is the response from customers, it's been positive, similar to what we just heard. We are also seeing loads of 50 to 60%. A lot of it is directional because people are stuck in different parts of the country before the lockdown, and they're moving to their hometowns. We now operate between 20 to 30% of our flights on Vistara, and I think that's bound to increase.
Vinod, Rosanna joining in from the studio here. We've been looking at South Korean airlines today because we've been seeing stocks creeping up, but it really is the ones that are offering more international routes that are seeing the biggest gains, whereas domestic-only carriers are seeing, or domestic-mostly carriers are seeing gains of only around 1%. So how much focus are you putting on your international routes when you can?
For Vistara itself, as you might know, we have a rich pedigree. We are part of Tata as well as Singapore Airlines. Our intention has always been to look at the international market out of India. We believe that fundamentally the Indian market is strong and will require international carriers long haul, which is why we are inducting our 787s and 321s. International travel has a few more complications as compared to domestic, because obviously you require consensus and commitment and agreement on both sides, which is something that gradually the world is opening up to. I think it's a matter of time. According to the Civil Aviation Minister of India, we are looking at a July kind of time frame for starting of international routes. Also, don't forget that India specifically has a lot of domestic demand as well. So the domestic routes are somewhat helping us in the interim while we build up to the international scene.
Yeah. Vinod, when you talk about the fact that costs will rise, but it seems that you're not too worried about it because you think it shouldn't be a priority, that safety should be the priority. But just when you consider the realities here, and also if some of these planes aren't going to be full right away, I mean, that will start to weigh on your margins. So what is the plan here? Are you going to absorb that cost, or will you pass it on to consumers in the way of higher fares?
Specifically in the Indian market, the government has come up with a banding of what fares to offer in the economy class. So depending on the route, the stage length, of course, there's a ceiling as well as a floor. The floor is because airlines also need a certain level of income in order to operate kind of viably. The ceiling, of course, is so that passengers don't need to pay through their nose for certain routes. So given that this is the scenario and that's what the government has told us, this is going to remain in effect till August, we are playing within these limitations and boundaries. But coming back to the actual costs which these operations add, I think once again, I have to reiterate that staying on the ground is the biggest cost for any airline. Starting operations in a gradual manner, and I think that given that us in the Indian aviation scene are managing this pretty cautiously, the confidence will return, and that will then result in more bums on seats and therefore more revenue.